What is up, everybody? ShonnyDman here, and welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing pretty good. Welcome back to another episode of Nerd Talk with a brand new guest this week. So, to get us kicked off and going, tell us who you are and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is SJ Slays. I am the Bahamas' first professional cosplayer. I am the founder of the Bahamian cosplay community. I am also 1/3 of the founder of the Chameleon Coalition. Yeah, I've been cosplaying for about going on 5 years now. It's been quite a journey.
Okay. What got you into cosplaying?
I've always wanted to, but in my country we didn't have a community for it. There were no cons here, and basically I always thought that if I were to ever cosplay, I would have to go stateside because that's where all the cons are. At least it was when I was growing up. But essentially what changed my mind, or what made me decide that I wanted to start the community here, was the popularization of the Marvel movies, specifically Black Panther. For those of you that don't know, the Bahamas is 90% Black. And so that was a very popular movie here. And I saw everyone, all of my fellow Bahamians, dressing up in all Black or African print and going, and I was like, oh, okay, y'all are ready to cosplay. Like we're there now.
Oh,
so I made the plunge in December of 2018, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah. So what were kind of the steps that you had to take in order to get this off the ground and get it going?
First was finding cosplays, which again, because I live in the Bahamas, which is a archipelago of over 700 islands and keys that is very kind of a little off the coast of Florida. We have to import a lot. So there's not really any stores that we can go to here unless you're thrifting or doing something like that. So there's a lot of Amazon shopping, finding quality cosplays, which thank goodness we now live in the age of technology where that can be done. So I did buy a lot of my initial cosplays just to get started. I also really wanted to emphasize Bahamian talent. So I worked with Bahamian photographers. I worked with Bahamian makeup artists, kind of in a collaborative spirit of being like, hey, you know, we have all of this talent here. We could be utilizing it for this if we want to.
Hey. So what were some of the difficult parts that you had to kind of overcome in order to get going with this?
Normalizing it was difficult. I should say I am surprised that a lot of people, more than I expected, were very open to the idea. But there are still a lot of people that are like, oh, this is very childish. At your grown age, you shouldn't be doing this.
Okay.
This is a white thing to do. Yeah.
Okay. So what was that? So when the first one you did, tell us about when you finally got everything good, everything's all set to go. What was it like at that first event?
Well, keep in mind, we didn't have events when I started cosplaying. I did my first shoot in December of 2018, and I decided to do Misty because it was a recommendation by a lovely cosplayer who I've been following since before I started cosplaying. Her name is Sassy Black Feline. She's from Jamaica. She suggested that I do Misty because I kind of could resemble the character a lot. And it felt amazing just to be in cosplay and to do a shoot. We didn't have our first cosplay event until March of 2019. And that was also just a very unique experience, because I think I was literally one of only like about four, actually no, I think at the first event I was the only person cosplaying. So very much you get a lot of stares, but some of them are interested, some of them are in awe, so that's nice.
So personally for you, so you mentioned that you did Misty. What are some other cosplays that you've done over the years?
Well, Misty was my first. I've also done Spider-Gwen and Catwoman. I started making my own cosplays in 2019. So my first made cosplay made by me was Chitara. And I've since done the Raven Queen was the last one that I just made. It was for Alias Entertainment Expo in Trinidad. Uh, I've done quite a bit in this 5 years, so it's almost hard to remember everyone that I've done. But I'm getting more comfortable with making my own cosplays. I should have also mentioned this. I'm also a comic book writer.
Oh,
I have a series that is coming out through Sovereign Comics called The Hellcat, and I did recently just make the cosplay for that as well.
okay. Why does that sound familiar?
Yes. Marvel does have a Hellcat. I'm going to preface this by saying when I created the character, I knew nothing about her
Oh,
because, again, being from I guess I should say third world country, they didn't really sell a lot of comics. The only comics we really got were Batman, Archie, Superman. Like those were the ones that you would see growing up. I think there were like a few Spider-Man comics here, but like we really didn't have much exposure until the internet came to the Bahamas, which was in like my late or early teens, and by then I had already created this character. I didn't steal her.
so okay, so tell us about that. What got you into that kind of profession?
It's kind of an amalgamation of things, and essentially what happened is I've always been a writer. I've been writing since I was very small, or as we say, a little youth. And I've always had this idea for this character in my head. I just didn't know what I was ever going to do with her. Then when I started cosplaying, Sovereign Comics reached out to me for my same Misty shoot and was like, hey, you look very close to a character that I have in my comic. Would you cosplay her? Her name is Tectonica. She is from his title Stars. And essentially, she's like, have you ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yeah.
She's like Toph, but on steroids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she can move like any tectonic plates. She can
Okay.
move, essentially she's basically an earthbender, but like OP. Um and so I said yes. There were my first sponsorship, and because we worked so well in tandem over the years, and he knew that I was a writer, he was like, hey, would you want to pitch your comic to me, because I would be interested to hear it, and if I like it I will let you write for me. And here we are now, a couple years later, with the art almost done. So
Oh.
it should be coming out next year.
So what? So like what? That must have been like pretty big right there for you in that moment.
Yeah, like my sponsorship with Sovereign Comics is probably the coolest thing that's ever happened to me in life. And I have a few people to thank for that. One of my best friends, Mutant Glue, she actually was one of the people that like okayed or approved of me working for Sovereign Comics because she already had a dynamic with him. Um, and when he asked me to be the face of his character, like that was cool enough. But then to a few months later be told, hey, you know that thing you've always wanted to do, which is writing, you can write for me if you want to. That was, I'm still not over it. And I don't think it will ever get old, to me.
So this is just like one comic that you've done?
Yes, so this would be my first comic. It's going to be a series,
Okay.
but the first issue will be coming out next year.
Okay. Okay. Uh, how can people? What's a good way for people to like be able to like purchase that?
You can do that one of a few ways, either by following Sovereign Comic, which you should just follow Sovereign Comics anyway. They make the comics that you've been missing. They are extremely good stories. So if you're like the type of person where story is key, these are the comics for you. And he has such a diverse set of characters that like there's literally a character for everyone. Um, so following Sovereign Comics would be a great way. He will be posting updates. I also post updates on my Instagram. I'm also giving sneak peeks for my Patreon, or for my patrons rather, through Patreon. And you would either be able to purchase from him or me once the comic's out.
Okay. Okay. So how exciting? It must be like really exciting for you knowing that. Like, so what was the time? What was the time frame of when you started to write the comic to it being about ready? What? How many years did that take?
I literally wrote the first issue in the space of December 2020.
Oh
So
wow!
from 2020 till yeah. So from 2020 till now, it's been in production. Part of that has been COVID has
Right.
impacted a few things. And then there was also we had like a shift in artist team. So that complicated things for a while, but like now with my current artist team is working extremely hard to get it out by next year. They've done an amazing job. I'm very, very happy with the work and the passion that they've put into the project.
Did you? I know you wrote it. Did you get any like? Were you allowed to have like some creative feedback about like artwork or anything like that, or were you just primarily writing the stories?
Yeah, so essentially, I am the writer, but I'm also the creator of this particular character and her series run. So I'm basically I have all the creative freedom. What was great was I got so lucky with my artist team that I could allow them creative freedom because I really trusted what they were doing. And they in turn like responded so well to that that I'm really just proud of what we were able to collectively create together. Basically what happened was I gave them like concept sketches of like, okay, this is how I see this going, but I want to tell me what you see or if you think that there's anything that can be improved. And they took it and ran with it. And it's just been incredible. I'm very excited
Have you already kind of
for
like
what's about to come.
have you kind of like already like plot out what the next part of the series is?
Yeah, I essentially work by like arcs. So the first arc is already plotted in my head.
Okay.
After that, I have a few ways it could go, but it really depends on how it pans out. Because one of the things is Sovereign Comics is a connected universe.
Mm.
So things that happen in other comics could potentially affect the route that she goes down. So we will see.
Oh, that is interesting. Um, do you have so other than Hellcat, do you have any other kind of stories or ideas that you are kind of like jotting down on the side that you want to get to at some point?
Yeah, like I said, I've been writing since I was very small. So I have nothing but ideas. I have about, aside from the Hellcat, I have about four others that are like solid and that I could potentially start writing if I wanted to juggle multiple projects. For the moment, I've decided to give the Hellcat the most of my attention,
Right.
but I do have an idea for like once I start to get more comfortable and see what the actual production time will be in between projects, now that COVID isn't really going to be an issue much anymore. So yes, I do have several ideas and creative projects that I would like to work on writing wise.
Okay, okay. Uh, so switching back to your cosplaying, have you been? So you haven't been to the U.S. at all for any kind of convention?
No,
Oh, you have. Okay,
I have.
where did you go?
My first convention was in December of 2019, so that would have been a full year after I started cosplaying. It was Rhode Island Comic Con. I've also been to Kansas, the one in I think it's called
Okay,
Planet Com Planet Con, Planet Comic Con.
yeah, I think so.
I've also I routinely go to BlurredCon, mostly because again, the country where I am in is 90% Black. So I do like now that we have a community to be like, hey, I can send you to this con and know that you will be safe and celebrated and all of that. So I did kind of establish like a connection of like going there to be like, this is a safe con for Bahamians to go and not have to worry so much about the more toxic side of the community. Um, I've also been to a KaiCon in Nashville that I really like, and Alias Entertainment Expo in Trinidad.
Oh wow, so you've been all over the place so far.
Yeah.
Um, what are some cons that you're wanting to go to that's on your bucket list?
One of them is actually going to be next year. I'm actually taking my Bahamian cosplayers to MomoCon. So we are all kind of going to experience that for the first time. Well, two of them have already gone. Jussie and Carib Crochet cosplay. So basically I try to organize at least a trip a year that we go as a group to enjoy international convention because it's not something that a lot of them get to do often. And I prefer to go as a group because it's safer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I'm trying to think of some other cons. Let's see, I've only been to probably I would say two. Um, I went to one that was about 45 minutes from me, but I only went because a friend of mine was going because a guy we went to high school with was he had a booth set up there because he did some digital artwork.
Oh,
And then
nice.
earlier this year, I went to Dragon Con for the first time.
I've also been to Dragon Con. Dragon Con was wild. Like there's so much going on at one time. That's definitely the biggest con I think I ever have gone to or ever will go to.
When did you go there?
Last year is yeah, last year I went.
Okay. What was that? What was that experience for you like?
Amazing, especially because I went there predominantly to meet up with one of my cosplay idols. Her name is Pantarona Cosplay. She is the biggest name in Trinidad, and I essentially got to work very closely with her there. I got to stay with her. It was lovely. So it was kind of an overwhelming experience, but in a good way.
Uh, so cosplay conventions in the US. Tell me about the convention in Trinidad. What is that like?
I love Alias Entertainment Expo. It's the first Caribbean-based con that I've been to, aside from the one that we've started up here. And it's on par with what I've seen in the States.
Oh, okay.
It's maybe a little smaller, but in terms of like the amount of things you get to do, the quality of the panels, the cosplay community is amazing over there. They're so creative and resourceful because we don't have as many tools or things that we can really use. We're sort of at a disadvantage there, but we make up for it by being extremely resourceful with the tools that we do have. So you'll see people make the most incredible things out of cardboard and glue, but it doesn't look anything like cardboard or glue. So
Uh, I've been to Trinidad once in my life. This is probably like maybe almost 10 years ago. I think, yeah, about 10 years ago, I think. I was there with some friends for the week, and I enjoyed it. I loved the look of the city. Um, it was a very very fun time. I was not very good at haggling, so uh, but I was just kind of like, eh. Uh, it didn't really bother me all that much. People were nice. Food was great. I enjoyed the food. Um, and they were just very hospitable people, and I really really enjoyed that.
Yeah, this was actually my first time going to Trinidad. My mother was actually born in the country, but she didn't stay for very long because at the time, her father, my grandfather, was a construction worker, so he moved around quite a bit. Um, but this was my first time actually going to see the place where she was born, and it's incredible to me how different it is from the Bahamas because I, having grown up on an island my whole life, I've always assumed all islands are the same. Like once you've seen one, you've seen them all. But
Right.
Trinidad is very mountainy and very jungly in a way that I wasn't expecting, and just absolutely gorgeous. It's an amazing country. I'm definitely looking forward to going back.
I have never been to the Bahamas or really anywhere in the Caribbean. I know most of my friends who do go is primarily because they're on cruises and things like that. I am not a cruise kind of guy. So, eh, but
Yeah.
I would like eventually to visit and just mark it off my bucket list as a place. Because I do like to travel when I'm able to. Because I've been what stateswide, I've been to probably about maybe 14, 15 states. And then I've only been to Cuba so far internationally, but that I'm planning on changing that here in a year or two. I but yeah, most of my friends they love the Bahamas. I'm not really a beach person either. So it's kind of like,
Yeah, like the beaches are like one of our biggest draws. It's,
yeah,
I'm not gonna say it's our only draw, but it is definitely one of the biggest highlights. Our water is gorgeous.
yeah.
I personally think so. So I was gonna say I would suggest you going to Exuma, which is one of our islands, because I live in Nassau, the capital, but it's very touristy.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you're not really into the tourist scene and you're not really into the beach, I would say like Exuma is a very nice place to visit. It does have our prettiest beaches, and also it just has a very lovely island feel. I spend a good deal of my younger years in Exuma, so it has a special place in my heart. But in terms of Nassau, you will get a lot of tourist traps.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So
It
have
is
you been
more
to?
built for the cruise ship uh, clientele,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
I believe a couple, probably like a few years ago. Uh, I was gonna go on a cruise with my best friend and his family because as a Christmas present, his mom and stepdad they were gonna like they had planned a cruise for everybody to go around the Caribbean. I think Nassau was one of the places that was on that
Mhm.
list, but ultimately we didn't go. But I thought that would be a pretty cool thing to see as well. The only thing I know about Nassau, honestly, is from like pirate lore, things kind of stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's really about the only thing.
We still have, like, if you're a history buff,
Mhm.
um and you genuinely like those type of things, we do have forts here from the pirate era, and the we have four major forts, so that if you're interested in the historical aspect, definitely you still can come to Nassau and still experience some very nice pieces of history. There's the Queen's Staircase, there's the forts, um lots of things you could potentially look at, but I just I do see it as more of like mainly like for cruise ship people. It just depends on what you're interested in when you travel.
So what's tell me about the food. What kind of like obviously each country has their own particular style of food that they enjoy. What is it like? What is it in the Bahamas or Caribbean overall?
Well, see, that's the thing is the Caribbean, like we all have our different dishes.
Mm.
So a lot of our food is similar but different. So like Trinidad, I love their food, but they'll have different things than say we would. So in the Bahamas, we do like there is a lot of fish,
Oh yeah.
a lot of seafood, a lot of fried food. We do baked macaroni. We also are big on conch. Conch is like our main thing here. So we do like conch fritters, conch salad, things like that. There's
So what
also
is that? What
we're
is
also
conch?
so conch because a lot of people pronounce it as conch and they are wrong. But it's conch is it's not going to sound appetizing when I say it like this, but it's basically a sea snail, and it lives in a
Oh,
giant conch shell.
oh,
Um,
okay.
yes. So we fry it up in a batter and make conch fritters out of it, which are quite good. Conch salad can be a little weird for foreigners, I find, because of the texture, but
Mm.
it's still very good if you're into that kind of thing. It's like a national staple here. Um, but essentially, it's conch scorched up and with lime, lemon, sweet pepper, not sweet pepper, red pepper, green pepper, all of that.
Because I remember when I went to Cuba a few years ago. So I went twice. In both years, the food was different. The first year I went, we were more inward on the island, and so
Mm,
we had like pork. What else do we have? We had like a goldfish. They had like
mm,
three different kinds of rice. And then
sounds about right.
one, but kind of like toward the last day we were there, they actually like cooked us a whole pig, which was awesome, which was very good. And then the second year, we were more on the coast, so it was a lot more seafood, so lobster
Yeah,
and other seafood based food. And I'm not typically a seafood eater, but I really enjoyed what they came up with. So it was very good.
yeah. My father was a fisherman, so I personally don't like fish. Um, which people are gonna come from my Bahamian card with that. But if you are the type of person that likes fish and seafood, you will get a lot of that here. We do lobster as well. We do snapper. We do grouper. We If you're very adventurous, you can try barracuda, but be careful with it because it has been known to cause food poisoning if they're not careful with what they're doing with it. So you have to go to someone
Oh,
really.
have you tried it?
Me, no. Like I said, I my father was a fisherman, so I very much got tired of it very
Oh,
quickly and just don't eat it now.
oh,
So I may have tried it in my youth and just don't remember, but I swore off of fish very, very early.
oh, I don't blame you. If I had to eat it like every day, then yeah, I can. I'm like, no, I'm kind of done with that
I'm
because
good.
yeah.
I'm good.
Uh, oh man, I'm trying to think. We have a few seafood places around where I live. But I'm just more of a shrimp kind of guy than anything else. So, um,
That's fair.
I I guess well lobster too. I did enjoy lobster when I was in Cuba. I never had crab. Maybe I'd like to try one day. So
Yeah, if you are ever here, we do crab and rice, and peas and rice. Crab and rice is also like a national delicacy, so if you're ever wanting to try crab, I would suggest doing it then.
um, so when you're not cosplaying or writing or anything like that, what does your free time look like?
I don't know what free time looks like anymore. Part of that is because like when I started cosplaying, like I did it with the intention of building a community here. So a lot of my free time gets eaten up in terms of like planning to better my community. I am also like the cosplay coordinator for the mini convention we have here, which is called the Geek Out and GonCon. So I run most of the cosplay competitions. I'm also like in charge of like setting up cosplay activities for the event. So yeah, I really don't know what free time looks like anymore. It's a good problem to have. I'm not
Right.
complaining. It's just I am kind of a workaholic, and I'm very focused on building the community up versus it being all about just me. So yeah, if you want that, you have to work for it.
Right, right. Um, that is something. Let me see. What else do? What's the schooling like there?
Um, we're in terms of what
Like,
before
I
I
mean,
answer.
obviously, you compared to the states, you have like elementary school, middle school, high school, that kind of stuff. What is it like in the Bahamas? Like, you're on an island. What is that? What does that kind of like look like for y'all?
So we have kindergarten, we have preschool, we have primary school, we have high school, and we have a university here.
Oh, okay.
A lot of yeah, our university is called UB, the University of the Bahamas. We also connected with the University for the West Indies. Um, but a lot of Bahamians do go to the States to further education, because while we do offer quite a lot, and we offer a lot more than even when I was in school, there are just some things people want to specialize that maybe we don't offer. They'd go to the States
Oh,
for,
okay.
I think it's called secondary education when in
Oh,
college.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
it's not like we don't have a university. We absolutely do. And a lot of our schools are very much on par with what's being taught in the States. It's not very much of a difference in terms of what sort of education is offered.
Interesting. That is interesting. Um, Trying to think what else. Is it so? Is it like hot all year round? Maybe not all year round.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean.
No,
But
it's hot all year round. It is.
okay, okay. Hmm.
It is. We used to have a winter. We don't anymore. Some Bahamians might disagree with me because occasionally we will get cold fronts, but a cold front to us is like nothing to y'all. I'm not sure which part of the States you said you were from.
Alabama, so in the South.
Yeah, your cold and my cold are two completely different things. Like we can't take cold. So uh like I said, I often tell my American friends like we really don't have a winter anymore. It might be a little chilly for us, but it's
Mm.
not really a winter. And we never really had snow except for like a couple of cases in one of our islands called Freeport. I know it hailed a couple of times,
Oh,
but yeah, we don't really experience snow. We're right like near the equator,
oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
so lots of tropic weather. Um, One thing I will say, if you're looking in terms of like what the differences in culture is, we drive on the other side of the road than y'all,
Oh,
which freaks a lot of Americans out when they come down here and rent a car. And that and I guess like how I've been saying, like it's the majority of people here are Black, so
Hmm.
it's very different culture wise.
What are some if somebody was going to go to the Bahamas, what are some tourist traps that they should avoid?
I don't know that I should say avoid because tourism is our number one industry. So technically, I should be encouraging you to come to the tourist trap.
That's
But
fair. That's fair.
so a lot of people come to Nassau to experience that cruise experience that you're talking about. So the cruise will drop them to downtown area where they will get to experience our marketplace. The straw market is one of the biggest places for artisans in our community. It's a market made up entirely of people who build things from straw, which is, you know, very impressive.
Okay.
There's also a lot of shops downtown. We also have a festival called Junkanoo in December. It's not really for tourists, but tourists are more than welcome to come and enjoy and watch it. It is actually a celebration that happened during slave times. So it has a very historical importance to the community here. And it's entirely made up of people who build things out of cardboard and feathers and make elaborate costumes. I like to call Junkanooers the OG cosplayers of the community, but I don't know that they see it that way. But essentially, it's the same thing. They're building costumes out of nothing and putting on elaborate dance routines and performances, and they compete against each other every year in December and Christmas and Boxing Day and New Year's.
Oh, okay. So, what? So for you personally, what are go back to the your cosplays? What are some projects that you're working on now that you're excited about?
Um, I can't really give it away because
Okay.
I'm hoping to compete. I'm hoping to compete again at Alias next year, and they like for your entries to be secret.
Okay.
So I can't talk about that one. One thing I can say is I am working on a I don't know if you've seen like the humanized versions of like Pokemon characters. Um, so I'm doing like a kimono Vaporeon look that I'm
Oh.
hoping to compete in for a KaiCon who doesn't have the same ruling in terms of keeping it secret. Um, so yeah, that is one thing I've been trying to finish for about 3 years now and just never could get started for whatever reason. I'm finally being like, okay, we're working on this now.
How long does it take you to like put your cosplays together?
It really depends on the project. Tectonica took me, well, actually, I should say Chitara took me a month. Tectonica took me about 2 months. The Raven Queen, which is the last one that I just worked on, took me about 6 months.
Oh
So
wow.
it depends. Yeah.
What which one is your most, because I'm sure every cosplayer has that one cosplay that they're most proud of. Which one is that for you?
In terms of the ones that I've made, so I've
Yeah.
made four so far.
Oh, okay.
Um, I've made four, and I would say the one that I'm most proudest of was the second one that I made, which is Tectonica. I had to make the cosplay so that I could do a photo shoot for Sovereign Comics because that shoot or one of the photos from that shoot is going to be on the cover of one of the issues of Stars. So
Okay.
I had to get it out at a certain time rate. I'm still very proud of what I accomplished and the fact that the suit is basically right off of the comic book. Like there's very little that's different about it. So I was very thankful that like because there was no real template to work off of, there was no pattern to go find, like you had to kind of figure it out yourself. I did with the help of my friend Delano Mark, who taught me to sew, but a lot of it was guesswork and prayers and hopes, and it came out great. So I'm very proud of that one in terms of the ones that I've made.
Was that one? Was that? I think that one was that the 6 month one that you talked about?
Say again?
Was that the
No,
one that took
Tectonica
about?
took
Yeah.
no, Tectonica took about 2 months.
Okay.
Funny enough, the one that took 6 months is the one I'm least proud of.
Oh, really?
Because I tried a lot of new things that I don't have experience with. So it's kind of like I probably will be proud of it later and being like, okay, well, this was a nice start. Like I see what I was trying to do, but right now it's more like, oh, I can't believe that this took 6 months and I'm still not happy with it. But I think that's kind of just the struggle of being like, once you start knowing what you're doing,
Mhm.
your eye and assessment level for things is actually better than your skill level. So like I'm at that stage where it's like, I know this can be better, but it's just putting the work in place to practice and better myself at it.
I'm trying to think of where I came across your content. I'm thinking it was Instagram. Did you do like a Sailor Moon?
No, I did Sailor Jupiter.
Okay,
Um,
that's probably the one then that caught my attention when I was just scrolling through. And I think, oh, I like this. Let me shoot her a message. I'm pretty sure that was the one. It may, yeah. A majority of the guests I've had on, I would say a lot of them have been Instagram,
yeah.
and so now I get to add you because got somebody from another country because most of the guests I've had on because this is episode 58, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
Congrats.
a well over a year. Um, Majority of the
Amazing.
guests have all been U.S. based, but
Mhm.
I've had two from Canada, two from the UK.
Yeah, I watched the one with Manda Mandak. I think
Oh
you
yeah,
just did that one. Yeah, she's from UK, right?
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and then there's you, and then I had one from Australia, and I have another one from Australia that's coming up.
Nice.
I'm trying to think who, and then I believe I have one from Sweden. I believe it's Sweden. I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong about the country. I'm pretty sure it's Sweden. But yeah, it's all over because growing up I only knew of cons in the States. I didn't know they were so worldwide until I started to do this podcast and this series, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is a lot. I did not know so many people enjoy doing this.
See, and the thing is, if you were doing this podcast 5 years ago,
Yeah.
there wouldn't have been an event here. There wouldn't have been really any cosplayers here. The most that people were doing were cosplaying at Halloween.
Mm.
Um, but it's not, I don't want to say it's not the same thing, but at the same time, it's like if you're only doing it like once a year, it's more of something that you're just doing for Halloween. You know what I'm saying? No hate to any
Right.
cosplayers that or people that cosplay on Halloween. I think it's great. I love it. I love to see it. Um, but in terms of like, there's really no community built around that, as opposed to now, where I'm still shocked that the community is where it is 4 years later. Like it's growing and thriving every day.
So with your cons, because typically, depending on which con you go to, they're typically Friday, Saturday, Sundays. Are yours about the same as well?
So we have a mini convention. I call it that because it's not really a full-blown convention yet.
Mm.
We call it the Geek Out.
Okay.
So it is the last or it was the last Sunday of every month. We've now scaled it back to be the last Sunday of every few months. And that is because we are preparing to make it into a much bigger event called
Okay.
GomCon, which will be our full-fledged con, which we are looking at rolling out in December of next year. the 28th to the 30th, I believe.
So do you have to like kind of get sponsors and that kind of stuff set up for you to do that kind of thing?
We've tried. We've really been trying over the last 4 years to get sponsors, but I don't know if they just aren't interested or they don't see the value of it yet. I don't know if it's going to take us paying out of pocket for the first couple of years for people to see, oh yeah, people like this actually. But at the moment we're paying out of pocket.
Oh, okay. So, hopefully, you know, that people will catch on and you're able to get sponsors because that would be, great for you guys.
That would be ideal.
Are you gonna try to like book any celebrities, anything like that to come down?
Yes, I can't say because it's still in talks, but I am
Okay.
actually in charge of like getting specifically cosplay guests down. One person I can say is my very good friend Mutant Glue will be our first cosplay international cosplay guest for GomCon. She will be hosting our, well, not hosting, but judging our cosplay competition. But in terms of like celebrities in the industry, I can't really say yet because it hasn't been confirmed. But I am in talks with a few people.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I'll tell you now. I'm excited for that. Is it so? Obviously, you don't have to go into detail, but is it like somebody? Is it like somebody that a lot of people maybe in the cosplay community know? Because honestly,
One
because I
person
probably wouldn't know.
you might if you're so like the cosplay guest that I mentioned would be Mutant Glue.
Right.
She's a very popular creator. And she's doing amazing with the Chameleon Coalition. She's actually the founder of it.
Okay.
But in terms of like celebrities, one is a voice actor for a very popular game. The other is more of an icon to Bahamians because of the work that they did for a particular movie. And again, I don't want to say
Right.
because I might be giving too much away and it's not confirmed yet.
Um, no,
And
no,
then
you're good.
people
You're
come
good.
back to this interview and be like, "You lied." No, I didn't. It just didn't happen. Fine. It's fine. I did my best.
So when is the next mini convention for you?
The next Geek Out
Yeah.
is March, the last Sunday in March
Oh,
of
so
next year.
you've got a while then.
Yeah. We were hoping to have a Christmas one, but it didn't end up working out. I think the team needed a break anyway. Like we all deserve a nice little break in December, so we'll be
Yeah.
back refreshed in March.
What's the size of your team?
Well, I'm just the cosplay coordinator.
Right.
So the event organizer is Ashley Adderley and Edward Dean. So they are the two founders, the head honchos, the people in charge. Then you have me in the cosplay section. Adam and Keithra of Celestrum Gaming are in charge of the gaming section. So they run little tournaments for all different types of games. Generally, I find MK was very popular, I believe, Mortal Kombat. They've done a few Smash Brothers tournaments. They've done a whole lot. Then there is the person in charge of the artist section and the vendor hall. So yeah, it's an intimate but still nice sized team. And everyone does their part.
How did y'all like
As I
meet
said,
each other, or how
so
did y'all get together?
when I say it's a yeah, when I say it's a mini convention, it's a mini convention. It's not huge. We're working on making it bigger for GomCon. But again, we're humble, but we're cool. Be cool. Um, How did we meet? So the event organizer, Ashley Adderley, and I actually used to model together.
Oh,
We
okay.
were both on the runway for Bahamas Fashion Week, the first one we've ever had, and it's currently the only one we've ever had. So we knew each other from modeling and got very close and discovered, oh, we're both nerds. Interesting. We both like anime. That's crazy. Who would have thought? And she expressed that she had been wanting to start an event like this for a very long time. And then when I started cosplaying, she was like, listen, I see what you're trying to do. Do you maybe want to be our cosplay guest? And so I started out being their first and only guest, and then kind of evolved it into being more of like their cosplay coordinator and making it bigger and putting on their cosplay competitions, all of that. Everyone else I kind of met through her.
What kind of anime do you like?
Oh, I'm very much an old school anime person. So I'm huge on Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Outlaw Star, Gundam Wing. Like those are my
Oh,
tops.
okay.
Um, Very recently, I got back into it. Um, I'm not caught up in One Piece. I tried during the lockdowns. I tried. I'm currently at Whole Cake Island. I'm hoping that I can get to Wano eventually. But I am enjoying One Piece a lot. I'm also big on My Hero Academia. I started watching Demon Slayer recently. I really like it. The Devil is a Part-Timer is way more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be so lame, and it's actually pretty fun. But I am more of an old school anime type of person. Bleach was also one of my favorites. So
Yeah, because I remember I was telling to somebody, and I was just kind of like, because I was telling somebody, because like with a lot of these cosplayers, they're cosplaying as anime characters I have no clue about. And so because I typically don't watch anime, if I do, it's very old school anime, like you mentioned. Like I grew up with obviously there was like Adult Swim and things like that, but there was more of Toonami, what they were doing.
yes,
And so you would have like Naruto, Cowboy Bebop, Gundam, was it Big O?
there you go.
I was a huge Zoids fan.
Zoids, Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh yes, which I binge watched a while back.
Mhm.
Uh,
Reboot was also a huge thing. Not many people remember or seem to remember. Uh, Code Lyoko, I think, had like a little um, run on there for a while.
oh yeah, they
Inuyasha was
did. Yeah.
huge for like Swim, Trigun, all of that. So yeah, I mean, I've like I said, I've recently got back into it, so I've started a lot of the newer animes. I also really love Spy X Family, um, but I have a lot of love and nostalgia for the older school
Mm.
animes.
No, I don't blame you. I do too, because I mean those that late 90 mid 2000 era of anime was really good. Uh, I think Inuyasha was always my all time favorite as a kid growing up. Um, One Piece, I I fell out of it at a certain point, but I really enjoyed it at the beginning just because there's like other shows and other things going on. But have you watched a live action One Piece yet?
Yes, I did, and I really liked it. I really liked what they did. I loved the diversity in the casting. I thought that they made such great choices. And just seeing the world kind of come to life was really, really nice. I really enjoyed what they did. I gotta be honest, I was one of those people that was like, I'm not gonna watch One Piece. I'm not gonna read One Piece. I don't like the art style. And I decided to give it a shot during the lockdown because so many of my friends were like, "No, but you gotta,
Yeah.
you have to, you have to, you have to do it." and I was like, okay, I will try. And then I fell in love with the story. As everyone said, the story is great.
What was,
And
what was another one? Yeah, they actually just released a trailer for Netflix's Yu Yu Hakusho that they're
yes,
doing.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
very
excited
excited
and
to
a
check it
little
out.
scared.
Yeah.
I'm excited and a little scared because Yu Yu
Uh
Hakusho is one of those iconic ones, and it's
yes.
like it would be very easy to mess it up. So I'm hoping that they didn't, but it looks promising so far. Also, Avatar: The Last
Oh yeah.
Airbenders trailer just came out as well.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as like the strike was over and everything, they just it
Yeah,
flooded with a whole bunch of information about movies and TV shows. I'm excited for Avatar: The Last Airbender. It looks a lot better than the movie that we got a few years back.
we don't
Um,
talk about that. We don't talk about M. Night Shyamalan and his
yes,
atrocities.
it was because I brought this up to somebody or one of the previous guests because we were talking about this because I asked them. I said, which one did you hate more? Did you hate the live action Avatar movie or did you hate Dragon Ball Evolution? And they were like, they hated Avatar more than Dragon Ball Evolution. So I mean, both are
I
bad.
would
Don't get me
say like
wrong.
I can't choose. They're both terrible. So
So I was, oh yeah, that was just, yeah, it was just bad. It was just bad. But yeah, no, because what it was, it came, it was on TV, I think, the other week, and I was watching it again. I was telling somebody, I was just like, I didn't notice this at first, because I didn't really pay attention to that. But when they're in the South Pole, and the two main actors, who plays Katara and Sokka, they're obviously white in the movie.
mhm,
What I didn't
mhm.
notice until I obviously when I was older and I saw it was they're white. I think the grandmother was white too, but the rest of the village were all Alaskan based people, and I was just kind of like, what is this?
You
What?
like you did this for what? You did you,
Yes,
you did this for what? Like it made no sense. I actually noticed that the first time that the trailers and stuff came out, I was like, what was the reason? You could have just easily like clearly you could find people. So what was the problem?
I was just like, what is
Anyway.
you? I was just like, because I was like, I said to myself, it's like, you either just go all out and just whitewash the entire village, or you don't do this at all. I was just like, I can't believe he did that happened in that movie, and I hated the bending so much,
Yeah.
especially the earth bending was what was it? It took like there's a one scene where it took like five earthbenders to move like one stone, and I was just like, what? I understand what they were trying to do with it. They were trying to incorporate, martial arts into the bending aspect of it, which is fine. I understand that, but it just looked goofy. It just looked ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it was just wild. Ah, bad
You
experience.
said you're not really into anime. Are you more of a comic book person?
I am. I am more of a Marvel DC kind of
Okay.
guy. Uh, not now that there are some animes that I obviously grew up watching that I will go back and rewatch. I typically probably wouldn't really get into the newer kind of animes. Uh,
Mhm.
there was one anime that I forgot existed for a very long time until I think maybe it just randomly popped up in my head. But it was a show called Case Closed, I believe it was. And what
Yes.
it was like it,
Yes. I know about Case Closed.
yes. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, I forgot all about this show. It was a good show. So But yeah, as far as like Marvel and DC, I'm more of in that direction of things that I like. Probably Marvel more than DC, but I mean, I'm a huge Batman fan. I've always loved Batman. Uh, Superman
He's
is probably
iconic for
second.
a reason.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Superman is second. I don't know. I would definitely would say with DC is Batman, Superman, and then a clear drop off after that. I couldn't really tell you who my third favorite is at this point.
Mhm.
But as far as
Yeah,
Marvel, that's a different story. Spider-Man is clear number one for me. Uh Probably ooh, number two is probably Iron Man and then Wolverine. Yeah, that's probably
that's fair.
yeah. So
That's fair. Um, it's funny because I'm such a multi-genre fan. Like I could fit into any pocket really that you want me to. Um, Even though we didn't really sell or the Bahamas didn't really have like access to a lot of the comics, as soon as we got the internet, like I was all over like Wikipedia and
yeah.
all of that, trying to like find like, okay, I want to know more about Marvel and DC. And so like I was because we sold mostly Batman comics here, Batman was a very like it has a very special place in my heart always, because it was my first introduction to comics. But I grew up on a lot of like the DC shows, so like Batman the animated series, the Justice League, the Superman animated series, Teen Titans. So like I had a lot of knowledge from those things. Had less because Marvel wasn't really doing a lot of TV programs. But we still got like Spider-Man was huge here. We still sold a few of those comics, I believe, over the years. And then I just gained the rest of that information through absorbing it through the internet. So like I've always been very much into comics. And anytime anyone asks me like, oh, do you prefer Marvel or DC? I tell them Sovereign Comics just because,
Yeah.
I'm on the staff and also I do love I genuinely love the stories. But in as a serious question, like I grew up on DC, so I have a little bit more love for it, but I don't I very much like both.
Right.
Because they are like the Daredevil um aspect of Marvel is like one of my favorites
Oh,
ever.
really?
So like I have things in each I have things in each comic house that like I'm obsessed with. So
Oh, that's pretty cool. All right, guys. I believe that is where we will end this week's episode of Nerd Talk. So much fun for this week's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. For those who are listening on podcast, or Spotify or Google Podcasts, how can people follow and support you?
if you would like to follow me, I am on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I am on Twitter, but I don't really use it very much. So if you want to find like the majority of my content, it will be on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. And it's SJ Slays Cosplay. I also have a Patreon for those of people that would like to or are able to support monetarily. It goes a long way to helping me get materials and stuff to make my cosplays. As I said, resources are very limited here. So I genuinely appreciate anyone that is able to support me. My name on Patreon is SJ Slayers Cosplay as well. I also have a Ko-fi. But yes, that is where you will find the majority of my content.
All right. All right, you heard her, guys. Be sure to go and give her a follow, show her some love and some support. And other than that, you guys have a great weekend, and we will see you in the next episode of Nerd Talk with ShonnyDman. But other than that, we'll see you guys later. See you.